Welcome to the broadcast, our special webinar on the future of sports tech and the entertainment industry. My name is Dave Crane, and this is another GITEX.virtual webinar. Now, in this next few moments, we're going to be lifting the lid on the future of sports because of 5G, edge technology, and the global community, which creates an umbrella in the cloud, which allows us to do some incredible things with sports. Now, if we've lost you already, don't worry. We have experts who are going to reveal everything to you in the next few moments as well. But we welcome your questions, your comments, like and share, and do all the normal stuff to let people know that this is quite an interesting session that we're going to have. We've got an incredible panel who are going to be sharing with you all their insights, and I've got a ton of tough questions to keep them on their toes. So I'd like to introduce to you, first of all, Hisham Shahabi, who's the co-founder and COO of Next Sports. He's a former Olympics participant, and I believe that he won the swimming for Bahrain. I just have to check on that. I'm not sure. Hisham was the sports intelligence manager at the International Olympic Committee and co-founder of Next Sports, and is a CEO, as I mentioned, and he's joining us from Washington, D.C. In the US. Thank you very much for joining us, Hisham. Next up, we've got Adam Marcel, who's a marketing head and technical support services from Nokia. He's a massive sports fan and drives the marketing activities for Nokia's new era of 5G digital support. He's also involved in the design, deployment, and operations of many venue solutions across the globe. So we'll be looking into what happens where and how Nokia drives that. And last but definitely not least, we have Amar Haina, who's the broadcast and TV production director for UAE Pro League. And he's a specialist in all aspects of modern day sports content creation, from production to post-production management, also an expert in live. And if you ever watched a football match, I can guarantee this guy has worked on it at some point because he knows everybody and everything. Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to have you here. We've got a lot to get through and some fascinating questions. And we're going to be looking at the future of sports tech and how it affects entertainment specifically, but also how I believe that this is going to turn a lot of what was just normal sports into most people's favorite entertainment, even if they weren't into the sports before. So let's start off by looking at something very simple, like the technology. So Adam from Nokia, can you give us an overview of the difference between the old world of enjoying sports and the new world as all the different tech jumps in and the experience of 5G and edge technology can take people onto a whole new level, enjoying their favorite way of spending time?
Thanks, Dave. Well, I think some of the consumption will still remain the same. So we're going to watch TV, but the content we're going to get might be different. So of course, I sincerely hope we're going to get 4K soon or 8K possibly, but also it's possible to get holographic projections in your home. But of course, there are a lot of different steps to get there. But it's all about the fans. It's all about enhancing their experience, and this technology is there to help. So I wouldn't want to reveal everything, but definitely I look forward to what's going to happen in the next couple of years in sports tech. You
had me at holograms in my home. I didn't hear a single thing you said after that. Can you just tell me what you mean by that? Can I seriously be able to, and will I be able to watch a match in my living room? Is that what you're talking about? Even if I have to wear these big goggle things?
Yeah, I was actually talking about without goggles because unfortunately Barcelona MWC didn't happen, but there are a lot of vendors out there who are producing currently recordings of certain bands or certain players, but it is possible with a high-powered projector. Of course, you need some dark space there, but it is possible to do that and to project into your home, and you can walk around like you would be walking around in that space. So I think in the next year and a half, we're going to see a lot of those, and I hope that in due time that will ease into the world of sports as well.
I look forward to seeing on TikTok people knocking Ronaldo over so he starts crying and everyone gets to see it across the globe. Very fascinating, very interesting. What's Nokia's role in all this then? Because there's such a wide scale of technology powering lots of different things. What do you specialize in?
Well, we're creating the technology that connects the world, to use our tagline there. But of course, we're looking at various connectivity technologies, and we're helping our partner communication service provider partners and other enterprises use the connectivity for automation, for easing operations, and of course, to serving the needs of people.
Thank you. We'd like to bring in now Amar from UAE Pro League, because the elephant in the room, I don't mean you, the elephant in the room is COVID. Now, here's the thing. Right now, sports is trying to get itself back in again. You got the Bundesliga and Premier League all sort of fumbling, but trying to say it's just the same, even though you got these canned audiences cheering, never in time with the actual game. But the players hate it. The audience aren't convinced. What is going to be the new norm? Is this a new norm, or what do you see happening in sports? Because you've got to somehow create an atmosphere that drives it on with your hands tied behind your back.
Yeah, I believe our fans are lucky because I'm so much classic whenever I think about using the effects and what they're doing on the other leagues. Luckily, I'm not the decision maker for that part. As you mentioned, I believe it's not going to be like normal as we used to call it normal. It's going to be so much challenging. So maybe during the last session, Ben mentioned even the thermal test before going inside the venue. So this is part of the technology. But again, I believe it's not going to be like normal as we used to have. And maybe I mentioned before the virtual fans, the sound effects, like couple of leagues around the world are working on those areas. On my personal opinion, I'm not that much with it, to be honest. But in the end, it might be like a normal for the next couple of months. From our side, we are ready to. We had a couple of experiences for and tests for some new technologies that we can use during the COVID-19 era. And let's see how it will be. But to be honest, I don't think so. It's going to be normal again.
Well, thank you. I don't want normal again. I want better and enhanced than it's ever been before. And I think it's a great opportunity. Hisham from Next Sports, your company is responsible for putting together a lot of the strategies that are driving the way that sports is different from the way that it was before. Now, having run the entertainments at Dubai Rugby Sevens for 20 years, it was all about getting people who didn't really care about the rugby to have the best party ever. I see the technology of 5G and the things that are being laid down, allowing the growth of every sport in every country potentially to be huge. And that means more dollars and bums on seats. Ultimately, what do you think the opportunities are for, say, football with the strategies that you're sharing and implementing right now?
Yeah, certainly, Dave. So if you think about the football fan as a person first, instead of a football fan, this person is used to ordering online from Uber. This person is used to ordering online from online stores. This person buys their ticket to a music concert and it's ticketless when they arrive there. So all of these different behaviors that these people have need to be brought into the football stadium. And so with COVID, some of the trends that were taking some time to surface, we're seeing them now being like top of mind because of COVID. So things like being cashless within a stadium, things like being ticketless, things like ordering and then going to pick up from certain points in the venue, finding the right optimum flow within the stadium so you don't have an overflow of people in one section over another. So all of these technologies are now possible, and they're top of mind because of COVID, thankfully. But I think they were trends that were happening already and were maybe prioritized by organizations that were already investing in their stadiums to upgrade. But now it's almost a necessity because people wouldn't feel comfortable coming to the stadium otherwise.
But one of the things I found is a fascinating conversation is when you go along to a game now, or you went before, even if you had a good phone, you still couldn't really use it because everyone was trying to get on and use the internet at the same time. 5G changes that game. Now, right now, we've got this horrible canned cheering, which doesn't make sense to anybody. It just kind of just stops you missing it so much. Here's the thing that I've been hearing about, that they now can enable every fan at home to be able to switch on their phone and stream their comments into the stadium. So you can actually have real cheering, real noise, real fans, and then you could actually turn that into parties and fans around the world, not just the ones who are actually going along holding a ticket. Is that a kind of possibility that we're looking at? And what else would you recommend from the fan experience?
Yeah, so it's a great experiment. I believe this moment brings a lot of ideas. The rules of engagement have changed because of COVID, and partners, sponsors who pay big amounts of money now don't have the typical activation opportunities they used to have. So before they used to have hospitality, they used to have game day activations. They used to be able to interact with fans in the crowd. So now this is not available. And so all these new opportunities are popping up. And I think it's great because what you'll see, hopefully when COVID is over, is a mix of sponsors activating on-site and virtually. Whereas before it was very much about the physical game and less about digital. I think going forward, it'll be a mix of both. And I think these experiments will gain traction if they fulfill, especially I think sponsors' needs in activating their sponsorships. So if you look at sponsorship figures just as a global figure, usually for every dirham that a sponsor puts on the table, they need to activate with 2 to 3 other dirhams, their sponsorship. So that's where I see the margin for investing in these experiments.
For Amar, with that idea about creating fans around the world who are able to enjoy the fan experience, would that make a big difference, do you think, to the UAE followership, to the amount of people that follow each team?
The thing, it's even before COVID-19, it's challenging for us to find the fans. As you know, it's full of entertaining around, and the mixture that we have in the country in general, it make it so hard to get to make you somehow your games as full entertaining place, So it is challenging from day one. And COVID-19, I'm not going to say it's going to make it harder, but I believe it's going to make it more challengeable, At the same time, it's not about challenge. I think we should use it as an opportunity. Where for the last couple of years, we were trying to invest on the e-gaming just to make it shine on a way. And to be honest, COVID-19 forced us to start with it while we were not 100% ready. At the same time, from the digital side of the content that we had, we were planning to start next season to do some live shows. And unfortunately, we've been forced to make it done like in a couple of weeks. So instead, the whole plan's been changed. And I believe it might be a challenge, big challenge. And it might be like a good opportunity. Whenever we have the 5G, it will make life somehow easier. And as you mentioned, we are in talks with a couple of companies around the world that they are offering some kind of, as you mentioned, cheering through application and just be there somehow. I don't think so. This is like the way we like it, because again, the target is not our age. As in the next couple of years, it will be like the normal thing for our kids, and they will enjoy it. It's same as what been used to do when our fathers and grandfathers used to be inside the stadium to enjoy the match, and they were just laughing on us how you enjoy it watching the TV, So I believe it's the same. It's a cycle happening in another way, and let's hope this COVID-19 just pass through without more damaging somehow. But I believe it's an opportunity. It is an opportunity.
I can't see the disruption coming down, but I'd be fascinated to see how the technology filters out all the bad words from every fan when their team loses. When we look
at the applications, by the way, huh?
What, you're going to have 5,000 buttons to press? I'm not sure about that yet. Maybe it can be done by artificial intelligence. And looking at that challenge, if I can pass it on now to Adam from Nokia, because here's what I think. Because of the nature of COVID, it's really had to make everybody in production of technology pivot and redirect and reinvent the directions, because you can't create incredible wearables for everybody in the stadium if there is nobody in the stadium. But you have technology that's had to change and filter into different ways. So in terms of that, what has altered, and what will 5G change for the fan of soccer or any other sport? Football, sorry, any other sport.
Yeah, we agreed on football, Dave. Yeah, well, just giving you an example how the world changed. When just a brief example of how networks run. Where does a network focus on during the day? Of course, your business. You optimize your network because people are on the road. You optimize the performance because people are sitting in their office and using it. And that changed overnight. And everybody stayed at home. So you had to optimize that performance to support home applications. And within sports, that's going to be the same. You're going to be enhancing the experience for a while. And I think, I'm a bit of a doubter, but I think it's going to be a mixture of home and physical presence, even after COVID, because people will either be a bit skeptical or we're going to take measures to keep them safe. But also it's going to give us an exceptionally big reach. So the UAE League, I think, looking at what Amar showed us earlier, I would be really keen to watch and experience all those technologies and those enhancements they've done up to broadcast. So it's going to be a mix. It's going to be telepresence and experiencing it from the comfort of your couch, like you would be sitting in front row seats.
With that, let's look at the more technical aspects of it all. One of the things we're fascinated by is Moneyball, the idea that with data analytics, with every sport, you don't need to put the best players out, you put together the right mixture of function, because that will actually overall make a much better experience of the team winning, maybe not the better football. How is data analytics and so on being used for this sport or for any sport? How is that going to enhance the actual experience of the teams and make it for a better league? To anybody who wants to answer that question, or maybe you're all avoiding it. Hisham, you're up first. Go on.
All right. And I'll pass it to Adam. He seemed like he was ready to answer as well. So, yeah, on data analytics, this is really like, I think, at the end, we're sports entities, and so it's about winning. So all of the, I think, initial data investments has always been around improving the human performance. And so coaches and the coaching staff, the high performance staff, is the first group, I think, that dealt with data in sports. And this has caused amazing results to happen with longer athlete lifespans as well. So whereas you saw the average age of football players kind of start to dwindle at the beginning of the 30s. Now you have them going to mid 30s and even late 30s, and this is thanks to all these advancements in human performance and health precision, personalization. And I think that will continue. And then once this wave kind of gets to a certain point, it will start to trickle down to the general population. So that's kind of like a very exciting opportunity for sports to think about itself as an improver of health, which is kind of going back to its social contract, with society. Before, like, that was the play, sports clubs were the place where you go to congregate and you stayed healthy and, trained your mind. And I think that's a role that sports clubs and sports entities maybe are not taking advantage of, even though they have the tools through athletes and through human performance to do so. And data specifically, everybody now carries around the Fitbit, the Strava, and talk about themselves in data, and that's a shift that I think will continue. And so if you have consumers that are thinking like that, obviously they will start to consume content that also speaks in that language, which is why when we see, there's no stop of watching the Premier League. There's a match on Sunday, but the news continues, the data continues, statistical coverage continues. So that's a way to extend kind of the lifetime of a piece of content from sports.
And straight over to you, Adam, because as he was saying there, the challenge is we look at what the entertainment side is going to produce, but there's so much underneath the surface with data analytics, which I can't remember, which one of you is a big Manchester United fan? Is it you, Adam?
Yeah, it's me. It's me.
Liverpool using the Moneyball system have made themselves almost unbeatable. Now, what does data and what does data analytics from this 5G and edge technology really do to revolutionize the way a game is played?
Yeah, so giving you an example, and I think Hisham was very spot on. I actually wanted to give the motorsports example because, of course, in motorsports, they're looking into technologies, innovation that trickles into our regular cars in a couple of years. But they're also looking at a lot of data points, how they can undercut someone in case of a pit stop. And just 5G will enable everyone to do a lot of those measurements and tracking, meaning even a small team easily can track how their individuals perform how much they sit at home, what is their regularity, and how they can improve even the performance with like sleep cycles. And that's going to be available for everyone. So we talked about Moneyball, we talked about actual people analyzing performance, and I think coaching will be different. Even someone who's just only purely good as looking at data will get so much information that they're able to improve performance on the spot, real time. So I don't know if it means a new generation of coaches, but definitely a lot of tools will be available to sports athletes and the general public as well to keep themselves fit and to improve their game.
Which leads on to when we talk about the general public and we talk about the different sorts of data that's available. I'd like to ask Amar, as somebody who's a media producer for the UAE Pro League, the challenge is that, you know, the game is not, thanks to COVID, as exciting with the audience cheering and cutaways to the audience as you would have. Is the temptation to grow more about the sport away from the actual games so you can follow the players, follow their lives, and that's always a double-edged sword. But is that a temptation that comes in, which is something that would be easily or more easily facilitated through the new technology?
To be honest, as long you've been in Sharjah before, and I think you will understand exactly what I'm saying. That we have a couple of months of the season that it is too much heat, and usually we don't have like fans in general inside the venues. It is improving year by year, but usually we have like less fans than we should see all the time, and it is somehow changing our kind of production plans, you know. So if you just check our production plans and camera plans in general and just compare it with the Japanese league as an example, you will see the difference that we have 15 cameras while they just have 7 cameras for the same match. But again, because they have the option of showing the fans all the time, we don't have that. So we need to create stories all the time from inside the pitch. And this is like this is like a heavyweight thing for the directors, the TV directors, you know. At the same time, you know, the schooling break for the last couple of seasons, it is like too much challenging for us, because in all the leagues around the world, I believe Europe, they start finally using the cooling break while they have 25 degrees. In our league, we have it for around 3 months, and this is like 1 minute between the action. At the same time, you have less fans that you need to see all the time. So you need to create like a story within this minute to fill. And this is exactly what we're trying to do. I believe it's going to be challenging us all the time, but I believe the load will be heavier and heavier, because now we don't have fans, we might say at all. We don't have the protocol clear yet, but I believe it's not going to be easy to find fans next to each other and the cheering that we're looking for all the time.
Thank you. Hisham, when we're talking about the exciting side of what happens with the tech and the sports, that's great. And I love the fact that this is what it's all about. But at the same time, the investment that goes into these sports is balanced by the fact that if you haven't got fans, the venues aren't making money selling hot dogs and crisps and Coke and water and whatever it is. And that's a real challenge for them to be able to invest in technology when nobody's coming into the turnstiles and nobody's sitting in the audience. How is that balance being that gap being filled? Or are we likely to see that a lot of teams across the game, across the sports, will just go out of business because they couldn't step up?
Yeah, it's a real tough balance, I think, these days. You know, some forecasts say like about $40 billion of sponsorship money will disappear this year from the global sports market, which is a huge amount of money. And obviously it impacts some more than others, you know. So you will have, and there are situations already, and we see this a lot in Europe, of football clubs that are being invested in by corporate venture arms or like funds that see now football as, there is a, let's say, a formula in place that allows for a football entity to be lucrative. And it's, as opposed to the US, where ticketing is very big in sports. In Europe, ticketing is big, but the biggest contributors are still broadcasting and still player transfers, you know. So the investors coming in see these two, and there's still a market for them. I think even though there's still a challenge in terms of investing in new things, investing in new solutions. So even though a lot of things exist, the business plan needs to be in place, and there needs to be like a much bigger attention on prioritization, which is why it's super important to understand where you are in terms of your maturity as an organization on digital, because there's so many different options, and without an understanding of where you are, you don't know where to put the next investment.
And that's a challenge that I'm sure Nokia have to deal with, Adam, because you can carry on churning out incredible new techniques and ideas. And we're going to be talking about AR and MR and all those things in a moment. But you have to have people who are willing to pay for it. Do you have a temptation when a sport is being underutilized, or in many cases you feel that it's heading in a downward direction, to pull something out the hat that will be a new game changer? And if that's the case, what would be that game changer?
Well, that's a tough question. Obviously, we're looking into investment, and that return on investment is very crucial. And we see that the whole 5G ecosystem will, the success of it will rely on leveraging potentials across industries. To pick one single one, I think that'd be too hard for me, but I think there are some great solutions. Like we've seen the volumetric video as a technology coming out, and also the ability to mix the audio channels. That's actually something we've done in one of the French stadiums, that in the VIP, they were able to mix the audio, how much commentary they want to have in there, or how much they want to get from the crowds. And I think that's a brilliant solution. We're working on a lot of technologies, and actually right now we just got invested in a project where we're looking into how we can improve the home experience for fans with the volumetric technologies across audio and video. So I think I see a lot of potential there, and we have seen from North America done in the NBA, for instance. I think that's a great technology, and it will help the view and sort of the like of any type of sport.
And not least the ability to watch any team, whether it's a big team or a little team, and put onto them the avatar of what you'd like. If you like Bugs Bunny playing football against Elvis Presley in a Premier, playing for Manchester United, I'm sure that you can do that with the technology that's being put together. In fact, that would actually be more fun than watching Man U last couple. No, let's not go there. What I'm going to say instead is, what are your thoughts on where this is going? Perfect world and unperfect world, if that's a phrase. We're going to go around each of you, give you the opportunity to say, if things progress the way they're going, where do you see the industries being with tech, sports, and experience? And if we could get rid of COVID faster, where would you like it to be? So it's not an easy question, I realize that, but I'm going to throw it at you anyway. So I'd like to start by throwing it at Amar. Perfect world and imperfect world, where do you see the future of sports being?
I believe that the human being is always recope with what's happening around. I don't think so. It's going to take maybe some time to recover somehow and find a new normal way. But I believe it's always like young people will help more about making it like easier and adaptable somehow. Let's say the perfect, I believe, is, unfortunately, usually we say we want to see the future and how it will go. But for us, unfortunately, in our age group, I believe we say, let's just back to normal. But if you ask my kids, I think they will say, no, let's see, like, as you mentioned, an elephant walking inside the football pitch while it's a match running, you know. But again, it's I believe it's not going to be easy, and it will take some time. And I'm optimistic about this. I think technology can help much to fill the gap of the missing pieces. This is how it should be, as the cinema filling the space of having like empty dreams. I believe the technology can fill that gap.
Thank you. I realize I've already aged myself by saying Bugs Bunny and Elvis Presley. 99% of the people watching have no idea who either of them are. Even saying Justin Bieber and a Gacha character probably loses most people. So we've got perfect world and imperfect world. Hisham, what are your thoughts on that?
So I think it's good to think about it in terms of abundance and shortage. And before COVID, I think everybody was living in a very abundant environment. where there seemed to be no limits. You know, a lot of cash was flowing into sports and sports tech and sports broadcasting. And so there wasn't as probably an introspective process and a very good due diligence, I would say. So now actually we're moving into a phase where every investment counts. I think sports, whereas they were seen as like non-professional organizations, let's say up to the 2010 period, now they're being seen as like professional sports organizations that are worth an investment. And that COVID will only now leave those that are professional to continue to grow. So I think for me, we're moving actually into the perfect world where sports will professionalize further, will be held to higher business standards than it has been in the past.
So that makes it harder for the entry point, though, when it's so super professional. The people going into it have to start at a really high level. That makes a challenge.
Yeah, I think it does make it a challenge, which is why it's important to think about where to make the investment. The global ecosystem is so different, you know, so depending on who you are, what kind of goals you have, I think there are many opportunities, you know, in the Middle East. I think it's fertile ground. You know, you see in Bahrain, for example, they just passed a legislation in the last month to allow sports clubs to become commercial entities. You know, this is like a shift that will probably bear fruit in the next 5 to 10 years. So these, you know, legislative governance and policy changes will really lay the ground, I think, for the Middle East also to be a good space to invest in. So when Europe becomes too expensive, Middle East will be a good next place to invest.
Bring them on. Thanks. And lastly to Adam, now you're allowed to answer this question as long as you bring in augmented reality, virtual reality, or mixed reality into your answer, because I'm very excited. What's the good, the bad, and the ugly of the future of tech sports?
I'd say we get all of it, and for me the pessimist and the optimist side would be that if we're out of those stadiums, if we're out of those venues for long, we're going to experience everything in our homes and with telepresence solutions. And if we're on site, and I hope that's going to be soon, because I got tickets to Euro 2020, and then we're going to be able to control that at site. So it's going to be an addition on our physical experience. While if we stay in lockdown for longer, then it's going to be evolving our homes and couches and virtual hot dogs and all that. So that's my expectation.
I don't think I want to eat a virtual hot dog, but the rest of it sounds pretty exciting. Gentlemen, it's been a real pleasure for having you with these discussions. And I've got to thank everybody who's joined us as well. And I hope that you've been inspired to think about what's been coming to your favorite mobile device and hopefully starting a tech company to join in the arena of where things are going to be going in the future as an innovator or a disruptor, or even just being an avid fan, seeing your sport coming back to you with augmented reality and hacking down Nessie in your living room. Thanks to Hisham, co-founder of Next Sports. Thanks to Adam from Nokia and Amar from the UAE Pro League for joining us on this broadcast. Also like to thank our producers, Oscar and Falak, for putting it all together. And also say that GITEX is back. Make sure you join us live at Dubai World Trade Center Club. We will be there. Dubai World Trade Center, obviously in the UAE. From the 6th to the 10th of December, we'll be live. We're going to be talking about this and more. So make sure you come along and join us. And if you are interested in everything to do with 3G, 3D, and one-to-one conversations, then there are many opportunities for you. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. And thank you for being on this broadcast. For everybody else, look forward to seeing you at GITEX. Thank you.